In this lesson, we'll learn how to send data to web services with the URLlib module. In this lesson, we'll look at two of the most common HTTP methods, GET and POST. GET is used to request data from a specified resource, and POST is used to send data to a server to create or update a resource. First, I'm importing the parse module from the URLlib library, and then I'm specifying the test URL that will echo on our GET request. Let me comment out this print statements. And now I will create a dictionary with arguments that we will use with our GET request. The idea is that we'll send these arguments as parameters in our GET request to the server, but we can't just send them in the format we will use in the code, such as dictionary. We need to encode them in a specific URL format. So let me specify the dictionary first. So dictionary will be called args, where we have name, which will be avocoder, and the second argument is author, and is author holds a boolean value true. Now we need to encode them in the URL format, and this is where the parse module from URLlib comes in handy. In fact, I want to keep everything in one place, so I'll move these arguments on top of this comments. And now I'll use the URL encode method from the parse module to encode this data before passing it as arguments to our HTTP GET request. So I'll save it all into data, and here I'm typing urllib.parse.urlencode, and I'm passing args as an argument. In fact, let me move this args dictionary even further to avoid any confusion. And below URL encode, we already have URL open with URL as an argument. And all we need to do is we need to append it with the query. And if you remember, URL parameters, also known as query strings or URL query parameters, get appended after the question mark. So this is why we concatenate URL with the question mark, and only then comes the data. And it is basically the dictionary data encoded in the URL format. The last thing, of course, is because we want to use the get method, we need to change URL to URL_get. Okay, now let's construct a few print statements that will print the results to the console. So I'm uncommenting the first one, and the other one I'll need to write from scratch. So below that, I'll specify another print statement, and here I'll call res.read. So we want to read the result of our GET request, and we also want to decode the result. So I know that it's going to be in UTF-8, so I'm specifying that as an argument. And now we can run the code and see what will come out. So here, as you can see, pre-written response, and status is 200, so everything's okay. And the response is prepended, so the server responded with these arguments that we passed in our HTTP GET request. Okay, so next HTTP request we will test is going to be the POST request. First, we need to add another endpoint. So to the URL get and URL, we'll add URL post. So if you're on Windows, Alt Shift down will copy the line, so URL post, and post as a method. So in post request, I will still be able to use this dictionary arguments as parameters in my HTTP post request, but first I'll need to encode them into bytes. So let's do that. So we take the data we already put into the URL encode method and we call encode method on it. And we save the results in DENC. By the way, it defaults to using UTF-8, and this is why I'm not passing any parameters. And now what we need to do is we need to define a URL request URL open method, but we'll slightly modify its parameters. First of all, because this is a post method, we need to pass the URL post endpoint. And then as a parameter, we specify data equals DNC. So data is the parameter, DENC is the name of our variable that contains the encoded data. So all that is left to be done is to modify our print statements. So post res instead of just res, and let's run this code. So server responded with the status turned, which is good. So you may notice that our arguments are no longer in the args dictionary, they are in the form. So the server has a variable named form where it encodes these parameters.